this video, I want to talk about the recent scandal with Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, and JP Morgan, the things that were said, the things that were done, and how crazy it is. And the main message being be careful who you listen to, seek the truth, and make sure you're informed. So last week, Jamie Dimon basically came out with a bunch of statements. He's the CEO of one of the biggest banks in the world, and he basically called Bitcoin a fraud. He obviously doesn't believe in Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, and decentralized assets. Saying things like it won't survive, and pretty outlandish statements that it's worse than tulip bulbs, which was basically a bubble hundreds of years ago with tulips. He said it won't end well, someone is going to get killed. And looking at this guy, he's a man of obviously a position of power, and saying like crazy things is really interesting. Saying it will blow up, and anybody that trades Bitcoin is stupid, were his words. Nice one, Jamie. Really intellectual statements there. So it was just interesting to see all this kind of unfold. When he said this initially, I don't think anyone was super surprised. Big bankers or people in centralized companies and positions don't necessarily like the competition that cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and certain things like that are bringing. So it wasn't that surprising that he badmouthed Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency industry. And then this one article, sovereignman.com, if you don't follow this guy, he posts some really good stuff. But one thing that he noticed that he said was, where is it? He basically said that if he finds somebody trading, he would fire them. Oh, here it is. Calling any trader who deals... No. Yeah, and then he said, if we had a trader who traded Bitcoin, I'd fire them in a second. Which is very interesting because of the information that I'm going to tell you in a second. But banks and investment funds have quite strict rules with their who are a part of other things or trading certain other things because they have insider knowledge, or the institution basically just doesn't want them dabbling in anything for security reasons, legitimacy, and all that kind of stuff. So now, just to reiterate the point of, obviously, we've got Jamie Dimon here talking about what saying some really interesting and outlandish things. I wanted to point to this article, which isn't really anything special in particular, but I just wanted to highlight it. It's a lady called Gail Marks-Josh for the Chicago Tribune, and when she's talking about Bitcoin and telling people to be wary of it. It's down here. Okay, so I'll just read a little bit of it. She says, do you remember the housing crash of 2008? I was thinking they'd make a fortune on soaring prices, ending up losing 30% on plunging home values. Do you remember the technology stock bubble of early 2000? Then she goes on to talk about the stock bubble. But what I find interesting about a lot of these writers or journalists, whether they're working for the Chicago Tribune, the New York Times, centralized kind of locations, is the way that they write, and I feel like they're really misinformed, because Gail's missing a big fat point of the centralized corruption that happened within the housing market that allowed people to bring out crazy amounts of loans to buy homes. So that's something very, very different than what she's comparing it to in terms of the corruption that happened, with loan companies, with rating agencies, with the banks, potentially with the government. This whole kind of centralized corruption, which allows something like the housing market to crash, which was over years and years of, bad legislation and really just filtering a lot of money to the top. So thinking about it like that is pretty insane when people like this are comparing certain things, and I don't feel like they're truly thinking about it in the right way. Because Bitcoin itself is a purely supply and demand market that's decentralized, and obviously Bitcoin itself, can't be manipulated. Nobody owns it. It's based on purely user base, market cap, and people adopting it, and it is providing an amazing service. It's an amazing innovation in the financial industry, and the blockchain technology will also revolutionize other industries. So what I'm really trying to get at is just make sure you're careful what you're reading, who you're listening to, and when you're obviously searching for the truth and trying to research different things, that you get a well-rounded kind of view from different people, from a lot of different locations, because I see a lot of bad press and bad writing that I feel can misguide a lot of people. So with that being said, I did share this on my Facebook page, with good old Jamie calling Bitcoin a fraud, and then ironically, that's kind of like a funny picture, asking what price we got in at, because now you can see this was on the 15th of September, so I think 3 to 4 days after his Bitcoin scam talk, and now you can see JP Morgan buying Bitcoin. And whether that's different entities or anything, that obviously JP Morgan is a large body, but the CEO of JP Morgan just said that this digital asset is a complete scam and it's a fraud, and anybody buying it or anybody trading it is stupid, and if he'd find one of his people trading it, they'd be fired. And here we have JP Morgan buying Bitcoin, while it hit a huge low. And last week, with the likes of the CEO of JP Morgan dissing the cryptocurrency space, and also China tightening its regulations on its third-party exchanges, Bitcoin did take a big dip. And JP Morgan didn't take much time to take advantage of that dip and buy on it, which is really, really interesting. And yes, it seems very, very corrupt. If you're trying to influence maybe the market in one way and then taking advantage when that kind of thing does happen. So maybe you can sell in a couple weeks, a couple months' time when it hits another all-time high. Who knows what Jamie does? Kind of impossible to say, and I'm sure he would never outly say it, but it doesn't point to anything good. So that was on the 15th of September, and then also they bought more on the 18th of September. Obviously, it's down from its previous high. They must have bought it under $4,000. Today, it's over $4,000. They got and bought millions and millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. So of its rise, again over the past week, it is volatile. They would have made a lot of money if they sold it. So I think that's really, really interesting to look at. And when this guy is talking about fraud and he's talking about scams and all that sort of stuff, to come from the banking industry and call something else out in those terms is very, very amazing. And we just talked about the 2008 financial crash, which was one of the biggest Ponzi's, one of the biggest frauds in human history, in this type of industry. So for me, people need to really take a hard look at what we have here and decipher the information that's coming around when somebody's calling something X and then their company is acting on Y, then you have to at some point call out, what's going on here, and is there something kind of corrupt or something just doesn't seem right. So with that being said, what I've tried to do in this video is really highlight some factors of centralized media and certain things that have happened recently, that don't necessarily shed a great light on what you can listen to and what you can really take on as truth. So make sure you do your due diligence, do a lot of research, talk to different people, create those good relationships, especially in the cryptocurrency world, of trying to seek knowledge and trying to seek the truth. Because like we see here with Gail talking about, I feel like things she might not really know about, and maybe she'll watch this video and she'll correct me on what she actually meant, but I just don't think you can take the cryptocurrency market. That is, don't get me wrong, it's new, it's young, it's volatile, it does go up and down dramatically, over history, but the trend of it keep going up and up, through user base, through adoption, through merchants accepting it, from people sending it from country to country, from people seeing value in it, and it providing a service to the whole of the world, and then comparing that to something which was completely corrupt, and a lot of different institutions and industries had to have a lot of shadiness going on, just seems crazy to me. And when big old JMO is, talking in the way he's talking, just be very careful. So I hope you got something out of this video, and, deciphering information and some of the news that has been happening in the beautiful world of cryptocurrency. If you did get value from it and you want to see more of things like this, subscribe to the channel, sign up for my free, can't talk, sign up for my free newsletter below in the description box. Got a lot of the latest and greatest happening in the Bitcoin and crypto space. And then I'll see you on the next video. Some things that you should be interested in will be popping up at the end, probably right now. So I'll see you hopefully on the next one. Have a great day. Thank you for listening. I am Matt Sheriff, and peace out.